Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the European Information Days of the LIFE program, edition 2025. This event is organized by CINEA, the Climate Infrastructure and Environment Executive Agency of the European Union, to help applicants to prepare their proposals by having all the information that you need in order to prepare a good project proposal and to make sure that you have better chances to succeed by being granted a life grant for your project. So this event is organized entirely live and online. And this is to allow as many people as possible to participate, but also so that you can, as future applicants in the LIFE program, also take part by joining us. And you can do that by going to slido.com. I will show you now in a minute how to do that, how to join the event. Let me first introduce myself. My name is Eva Paparatti, and I work as a project advisor and also a co-coordinator at CINEA. CINEA is the Climate Infrastructure and Environment Executive Agency of the European Union. And last year, last month, like every year, CINEA has published a series of calls for proposals for LIFE funding. And you can find all the calls for proposals in the Funding and Tender Opportunities portal of the European Union. But of course, there is a lot of information there. And in order to help you, guide you through all the information and to give you all the tools that you need in order to apply, we have organized this event that will take place over 3 days. So from today, Tuesday, 13 May, until Thursday, 15 May 2025. So during the event, you can join by going to slido.com. And you can also join by scanning this QR code. And when you go to slido.com, you just have to type hashtag EULIFE25. And this is useful for two purposes. First of all, to answer our polls, because we want to have your feedback on our information sessions, but also so that you can send us your questions. You just have to post your questions, but please don't do it as of now. Let's wait until the end of each presentation, because the presentations we will do on each call will give you a lot of information, and you will probably have a lot of information there already, many answers to your questions. So please wait until the end of each presentation before you ask your questions, and make sure that the question is relevant to the session, because we can answer only to the questions that are relevant. And when you ask a question, you can also before you ask a question, you can like questions that are already posted, and when they're liked, they will go up, and so they have better chances to be answered, to be treated in priority. Now, I would like to make sure that everybody can join on Slido, and to do that, we will do a first kind of poll. I would like to ask you this very simple question. Is this the first time you participate in a EU LIFE Info Day? You should see the question on your screen. So please take a few moments to reply. So also to make sure that you can connect with us through Slido. And we can already see some of the results. I will give you 10 more seconds. We can see that some people have already participated in EU LIFE Info Days. Some people are newcomers. So I suppose this event is useful for everybody, but especially for newcomers. Now, thank you for participating. It's important, especially to make sure that you can connect, and that you can also participate in the next polls and in the question and answer session. Now, I would like to quickly go through the agenda before I introduce the first speaker. So for in a nutshell, let's say the agenda of these 3 days, we start today with the general introduction. Today it's Tuesday, 13 May, and it's the plenary session, and it will take place only in the morning from 9 until 12. And we will introduce the different calls for proposals in a kind of overview mode. But there will be also a presentation dedicated only to the financial aspects of the calls. And after this, we will have 1 whole hour for questions and answers. Then the afternoon will be dedicated to networking among potential applicants and with national contact points. In fact, as potential applicants, we would advise you to look for other applicants to set up consortia, but you can also seek the advice from your national contact point, which are there to help both life beneficiaries, but also applicants. And so in order to set up these meetings, you can go to the platform where you register for this event. And you can just look for other potential applicants that are, well, you know, could be interested in your project. Then day 2, tomorrow, that's Wednesday, 14 May, we will dive more into the standard action projects. So we will present calls for proposals for projects on climate action, that is climate change mitigation and climate change adaptation. Then we will present calls for proposals for projects on circular economy and quality of life, calls for proposals for nature and biodiversity projects in the afternoon. And then there will be a final session on the application process and the evaluation. Then on day 3, that is Thursday, 15th of May, we will present you the calls for proposals on clean energy transition projects. Then we will give you a presentation on strategic projects calls. And then in the afternoon, the call for proposal on policy priorities and legislative priorities, and on the technical assistance and replication call. So without further ado, this is the agenda for today. As I told you already, there will be first an introduction and a speech by our head of department, Aneta Willems, that will be followed by the presentation on the calls for proposals 2025 and another presentation on the financial aspects of the calls. So without further ado, Aneta Willems is our head of department D, which is the department for natural resources, climate, sustainable blue economy, and clean energy transition. And I would ask you, Aneta, to join us and to give us a welcome address for our future applicants. Hello, Aneta.
Thank you very much, Eva, for my introduction. Welcome, everybody, to those information days on LIFE program. I have a pleasure of heading the SINEAS department in charge of LIFE program. And I'm pleased to welcome you today. SINEA is one of the 6 executive agencies of the European Union, and it manages 7 funding programs with a delegated budget of more than 65 billion euro for this financing period of 2021-2027. And if you are interested in other funding opportunities besides LIFE program, SINEA manages also the Innovation Fund for decarbonization of our economy, the research and innovation projects in transport and energy under Horizon Europe, or big infrastructure projects in areas of connectivity of European transport and energy networks under the Connecting Europe facility. We also have renewable energy financing mechanism, just transition mechanism, and of course also in our department, the European Maritime Fisheries and Aquaculture Fund. I will not go today in the details of these programs, but I invite you to visit the SINEA website, where you can find all the information about our programs, projects, and next calls. And the mission of our agency is high-quality program management, and you will discover plenty of important information about various aspects of LIFE program from my colleagues today, between today and Thursday, like Eva introduced the program. And this information is there to help you in the application process. And with the overarching objective to contribute to a sustainable, climate neutral, resource and energy efficient economy across all sectors, supporting ecosystems and reversing the loss of biodiversity and protecting the health of EU citizens from pollution. The LIFE program is also a very important instrument to deliver on the ambitions of the European Green Deal. And moreover, it's a unique program in the sense of its dedication to the nature, environment, and climate objectives. And SINEA proactively invests in natural capital, green research, and innovation, but it also fosters synergies among different funding programs. And this is to ensure their optimal use and achieving the highest impact for greener Europe. Our department is particularly very well positioned to build bridges between different programs, covering a great variety of topics such as natural resources, climate, sustainable blue economy, and clean energy. In 2025, 600 million are available for projects under LIFE program. And this year, we will also celebrate the LIFE's 33rd anniversary and Natura 2000 Day on 21st of May. And LIFE has already funded more than 6,000 projects in the past years. And in April, we welcomed 5 new green strategic projects for in the LIFE family in Denmark, Poland, Estonia, Slovenia, and Iceland. And if you are interested to know which funding opportunities are currently open for you, please visit the Calls for Proposals page on SINEA's website or the Funding and Tenders portal website of the European Commission, where you will get a full overview of all ongoing calls for proposals across all programs, including, of course, the 2025 LIFE calls. So finally, let me thank you for your attention, and I wish you all a very interesting and productive info days, and good luck with the preparation of your proposals. Eva, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aneta, for introducing us to SINEA and to the different programs. In fact, it's important to note that LIFE is not the only program we have at SINEA. In fact, it is very important for achieving the objectives of the Green Deal, but it's not the only one. I would like to introduce the next speakers, who are Anne Burrell and Hans Rhein, respectively Head of Unit for Life Environment and Head of Unit for Life, Climate and Energy at SINEA, Department D. And they would give us the first presentation, which is an overview of the different calls that have been published last month in the Funding and Tender Opportunities portal of the European Union. And the floor is yours.
Yes, good morning. I don't see my own image. I hope you see me.
I think we can see you.
We do.
Okay, very good. So thank you. I'm very pleased to be with you today, together with my colleague Hans Rhein. As Eva has explained, the two of us run the 2 units in SINEA that have the honor of implementing the LIFE program. Our objective now is to give you an overview of the calls for proposal. Of course, over the next couple of days, you're going to get all of the details. So what we're going to tell you is really just the tip of the iceberg, but I think it's useful to have a good overview of the program and the call before we get into the details. Hans.
Thanks, Anne. Also a very, very warm welcome from my side. My name is Hans Rhein. I'm the head of unit of the other LIFE unit, responsible specifically for the energy and climate action part of the LIFE program. it's great to have seen that so many applicants and interested parties have registered for this info day. I think we have new records with over 2,600 registered participants as of yesterday, so that's a great turnout. So I think that reflects a very strong interest into the LIFE program and its 4 sub-programs. But it also obviously means a lot of competition for the available funds, and we have more or less the same amount of funds available under this year's call as for the previous calls. So I think that's very important for applicants to carefully listen to the presentations in the next couple of days, because that will ensure that you can prepare your applications to the highest quality, and that way we will ensure that the program really delivers a high quality projects that deliver on the European Green Deal. And that's really what these info days are about. So let's dive right in. So next slide, please. What is the LIFE program exactly? So the LIFE program is the only EU funding scheme currently dedicated exclusively to the environment, nature conservation, and climate action. It really helps to implement the European Green Deal on a very, very broad range of activities. It looks at supporting innovative action, and also tries to bring research results close to the market and help their application. So that's what we are looking at. So LIFE has a long history. We are celebrating, as Annette Williams has mentioned in her introductory remarks, the 33 years of the LIFE program. It has grown over the years. For the current multi-financial perspective, so 2021 to 2027, LIFE had received a budget of 5.4 billion euros, so quite a substantial amount of money, and that allows us again this year to provide a budget for proposals of around 600 million euros. Next slide, please.
Okay,
so as I said,
I think that's me. No.
Sorry, Anne. As I said, the LIFE program has 4 sub-programs. They all aim at supporting the circular and energy efficiency and renewable-based and a climate-resilient economy. They aim at protecting the quality of the environment, and also try to reverse, and very important these days, the loss of biodiversity in our environment. So 4 sub-programs: nature and biodiversity, the traditional ones, circular economy and quality of life, very important, I think, in the current context. We will need to address climate change and mitigation, and that has been very successful sub-program over the past few years, and also the clean energy program, which is meant to support the transition to clean energy. On the slides, you'll see the type of projects that we are supporting. I think important for us is that we have a very diverse stakeholder group, and our beneficiaries in the projects are about 1/3 private enterprises, including SMEs, 1/3 NGOs and civil society organizations, and 1/3 public authorities. And next slide, I'll pass over to Anne again.
Okay, thank you very much, Hans. So as you saw in the previous slide, our program is divided into 4 sub-programs, and we're going to give you now a brief overview of those different sub-programs and their overall objectives. I think a general comment that's important to make is that with the limited financing that we have in life, we obviously can't solve all of the environmental problems in Europe. What we attempt to do, and do very successfully so far, is to finance projects which provide very good examples of how to tackle environmental challenges on the ground. They're projects which will serve as models for the future and in some way can be upscaled and replicated to have a broader impact on transitioning Europe to a greener, more sustainable economy and society. In the Nature and Biodiversity subprogram, therefore, what we are trying to do is contribute to the overall objectives of the EU's nature and biodiversity policy. I would underline that all LIFE projects are strictly linked to EU policy objectives and legislation, or for those countries that are associated to the program, but outside of the EU, actions which move towards the same objectives as our legislation, even if it's not in force. So for the Nature and Biodiversity subprogram, what we're talking about here is really the Natura 2000 network, the invasive alien species regulation. We now have the incoming nature restoration law, the new regulation, whose objectives obviously also need to be taken into account under this subprogram. So what we're trying to do here is ensure that we are contributing to impact on the ground. Impact on the ground is very important in LIFE projects, but in areas that are particularly key or where we can have very good demonstration of the kind of activities which can be rolled out on a wider scale in other areas. You'll see on the last box here, there's the mention of financing of a small grant scheme in Europe's overseas countries and territories and outermost regions. That's a very specific activity under the Nature and Biodiversity subprogram. It's not actually the subject of this open call, but we included it here just for you to see the full range of activities under Nature and Biodiversity. Next slide, please. The second subprogram that we should mention is the subprogram on circular economy and quality of life. Projects under this subprogram can make contributions related to a wide range of legislation and policy of the EU in environment. So this would include, as it says in the box there, policy related to circular economy, noise, air, chemicals, industrial accidents, marine coastal management, noise, soil, urban environment, water, waste. So the full range really of different legislation, different challenges that the EU faces that are not covered by one of the other subprograms. So this is the most general, perhaps I'd say, subprogram, but if you read the call documents very carefully, you'll find some information about the priority topics under each of those sub-policy areas. In this program, we give support for technologies and solutions to test them, roll them out in real world conditions. We don't, as Hans, I think it was said previously, we don't finance research per se. What we're trying to see is how things that have already been developed through the research and science process can actually be applied on the ground. And that raises a very important issue for LIFE. All of our projects aim to work with all of the relevant stakeholders. We're not working in isolation from the real world. On the contrary, we're trying to find, prove, pilot solutions that work with the stakeholders, work with the economic actors, work with the civil society, work with the private citizens, so that while they solve environmental problems, which is the main objective, they do it in a way that also is coherent with economic and social goals, and therefore are really truly implementable. Next slide, and back to you, Hans.
Thank you, Anne. So the next sub-program is on climate action. And specifically there we have two sub-programs, one on climate mitigation and one on climate adaptation. On the climate mitigation, we look at funding projects that contribute very, very generally to the 2030 energy and climate policies, and that will obviously have to be updated once we will also adopt the 2040 targets for our climate policies. So it's in support of the EU member states' national energy and climate plans, whether that's at local level, whether that's at sectoral level. So we cover quite a number of mitigation actions that look at really reducing and decarbonizing our economy. On climate adaptation, that again supports actions to support the EU member states in implementing their national strategy for climate adaptation. I think that program is increasingly becoming a very, very important topic for EU member states, because the costs of adaptation will rise significantly, and so to find the right solutions and to prepare both our cities but also our agriculture to the changes that result from climate change is very, very important. And so we look really at innovative actions across these actions. Next slide, please. The sub-program on clean energy transition is, as I said, the newest member of the LIFE program. It has previously been supported with similar objectives and directives under the Horizon 2020 program. So many of the applicants will remember that program. It has been very successfully in supporting the broad range of energy policies, focusing both on the buildings policies and in particular the energy performance in buildings directives, but also the energy efficiency directives, and to some extent also the renewables directive. So I mean there are 5 blocks that this program looks at. One is strengthening and helping to implement the policy and regulatory framework at the national and local level. We are broadly supporting all kinds of projects that look at engaging and empowering consumers, whether that's through energy communities or whether that is directly addressing at how also poorer strategies of the society can participate in the clean energy transition. We look and support local actors in investment in the clean energy transition. So that is a very, very important and long-standing part of that sub-program. We have a whole block that looks also at attracting and finding new innovative ways of drawing private finance into the clean energy transition. And then we have a broader rollout also of new technologies and services and business models to the clean energy transition. And as said, that sub-program in particular looks at really spreading best practices mobilizing investments, but also improving skills, educating and empowerment. What is important in this sub-program is that broadly most of the topics under this call will require that you have European-wide cooperation and normally require that you have at least 3 member states represented in your consortia to support the rollout of the new models that you are proposing. Next slide, please. So, and a quick overview of the types of funds and grants that LIFE is supporting under the regulation, the LIFE regulation, and we will dig more into it in the next few slides. So I don't spend much time on this slide, but it's important that you realize that there are different types of projects because the conditions and the eligibility criteria for each of the action grants and is different, and you will have therefore to carefully look at it. We have tried to harmonize, especially in this year's call, the submission deadlines. So most of the calls will end on the 23rd of September of this year, and most of them are in a one-stage evaluation process, except for the strategic projects that have a 2-stage evaluation process, and also have a particular call deadline. So please be aware of that. We have operating grants also for civil society organizations, but that will not be an open call this year. And therefore, we will not present this call in this info day today. Back to you, Anne.
Yes, thank you very much. Next slide, please. So what we're going to do now is speak a little bit more about the different calls which address those different types of projects which Hans has mentioned. Next slide, please. So I'm going to start with the standard action projects. These are what was originally known as traditional LIFE projects. These are the type of projects that we've financed over the, several decades. They are projects on the ground that are aiming to either implement best practice or demonstrate some kind of innovative or demonstrative solution, always to a specific issue on the ground, where we'll have a very real impact, but at the same time, providing a solution which shows a potential for being replicated and upscaled in other parts of the EU, in other habitats, in other economic sectors. This type of call is being launched under 3 of the sub-programs: the Nature and Biodiversity sub-program, Circular Economy, Quality of Life sub-program, and under the Life Climate Action sub-program. So you'll hear a lot more detail about the specific content of the calls in the sessions tomorrow, where they'll dig into them. But in common for all of these calls, I can give you a bit of information. That is that these can be mono-beneficiary grants. They can be cooperation between a number of different partners. We're sometimes asked, how many partners should we put in a SAP project? Well, the answer is how many you need to effectively address whatever the problem is that you're trying to solve. So it can be one or it can be many. It can be applicants working in one country or in more than one country. If it's more than one country, it would be useful in your application to explain why that's an added value and how that actually contributes to the objectives that you've set out in the project. We also have a very broad range of applicants in these types of projects. On one of the very first slides, you saw that 1/3 of our applicants, 1/3 of our beneficiaries are public sector, 1/3 of our beneficiaries are private commercial actors, both large and small companies, and a third are civil society organizations or nonprofit. So there can also be a mix of different types of applicants in a project. But to recall, these are not research projects. These are projects that are solving a problem on the ground with techniques that have already been shown to be scientifically effective. As Hans mentioned, this, like most of our calls this year, is a one-stage application, which means when you submit the application, you will see that the form contains all of the questions and all of the information, which will be used to judge how good the project is or not. The total indicative budget you see on the screen, it's about 300 billion this year. Sorry, 300 million this year. 300 billion would be nice. And you see the opening and the closing dates. The calls are competitive, so you will find that not all good projects get financed, so it's very important to prepare your application the best that you can. Certainly, you can look for partners in the networking sessions also during this life session, this life info session. Next slide, please. The second type of projects, the second category of calls that we're launching are for strategic projects. Strategic projects are a bit different from the standard action projects in that they must tackle the implementation of one of a specific set of plans and strategies that are defined in the calls. So some examples are the priority action framework plans under the nature and biodiversity subprogram. Under circular economy and quality of life, for instance, river basin management plans or waste management plans. You can find the full list of eligible plans in the calls. Under climate action, there's possibility of financing strategic projects in both adaptation and in mitigation. This call is very similar to the one that was launched last year, although there's a slightly different list of eligible plans, so you do need to consult the documentation, even if you've been a previous applicant here. These applications are normally submitted by the competent authority that is responsible for the target plan. In certain cases, perhaps the coordinating beneficiary could be another stakeholder, but always that competent authority needs to be a partner in the project, and as I said, preferably being the lead partner. These projects aim towards the ultimate full implementation of the target plan. Now, obviously, within our LIFE project, we're not going to be able to finance or realize the full implementation, but the key word here is catalyzing it. So these projects will undertake some specific action on the ground towards implementing the plan, but they will also work to set up mechanisms and governance situations and collaboration with the various different actors who are needed to implement the plan. And those constructions are things that should carry on after the end of the plan. In addition, these projects must mobilize and coordinate activities and finance coming from other sources. So while the LIFE strategic project per se may be relatively small, the overall strategic project, including all the complementary actions, is often a very, very large initiative involving many partners and many stakeholders. There are indicative allocations of the budget per member state, slightly different under the different subprograms, but that is something that potential applicants here should consider. And it's in view of the fact that that's per country, it's something which should probably be discussed with the LIFE national contact points if you're thinking of putting in an application under the strategic projects. The strategic projects are evaluated, the applications are evaluated in a two-stage process. So in the first stage, by the 4th of September, you are invited to submit a concept note. That is judged on a pass or fail basis, looking at whether your proposal meets the basic requirements in terms of eligible plan, in terms of scope, in terms of potential complementary actions. If your proposal passes the concept note phase, then there will be an invitation to submit a full proposal, which as you can see, is only submitted in March of 2026. And that proposal will undergo an evaluation leading to both a pass-fail and a score, which will lead to a ranking of which proposals will be retained. Next, please. In addition to our standard action projects, our strategic projects, we have a number of technical assistance calls. The one I want to mention first is the technical assistance for replication. This is a call which is being launched under two of the subprograms, Nature and Biodiversity, sorry for the typo I see there, and the Circular Economy and Quality of Life subprogram. The purpose of this call is to finance activities to help with the replication and upscaling of previous successful projects. This is not about one-on-one replication. It's about providing technical assistance to overcome barriers to replication and upscaling. This is very important because in the past we've had questions about, we did a project in one place, can we do the same thing in another place and get support through the technical assistance replication? The answer is no. You have to aim towards overcoming some barrier to the large-scale replication and upscaling. In principle, you must be upscaling and replicating a successful life project. However, there's also the possibility of applying for technical assistance for replication of a life-like project, which has been financed from another EU program. But always it must have been a project that was aiming towards meeting the objectives of the LIFE program. As you can see, this is a one-stage application process with the call being open already and closing on the common date on the 23rd of September. Applicants here could be any type of entity. Normally, the beneficiaries of the project which is being targeted for replication and upscaling should be involved in the project as partners or possibly the main beneficiary. Because obviously if we're trying to upscale and replicate, it's very important to have an in-depth knowledge of what happened in the previous project. So back to you for some other types of calls, Hans.
Thank you, Anne. Next slide, please. So we're coming now to the other actions, and in particular to the policy and legislative priorities projects, which we abbreviate as PLPs. These are projects that aim specifically at supporting a particular policy area in the implementation of that policy. This year, there are projects or topics open under the three sub-programs, Nature, Biodiversity, Circular Economy, and Quality of Life, as well as for the clean energy transition. And we have one cross-cutting topic that has been introduced and that looks in particular, in cross-cutting, I mean covering all sub-programs, and looks really at accelerating the green transition in urban spaces, and look at both energy, climate, and nature challenges in the urban areas. This particular sub-call aims, in principle, of trying to look at solutions that address all these all four sub-programs, and these three challenges in the urban environment. We hope very much that will be a particular area of interest for the applicants. There are also 7 specific priority areas that have been identified in the nature and environment area. These range from forestry, but also to traditional topics that have been opened in previous years, such as environmental crime or the European Bauhaus, but also look at capacity building and eco-design or water resilience issues. So if you are interested in it and think that your activities could fall under this call topics, please go for the session in the next couple of days. It particularly looks at policy and legislative priority projects to get more details. Overall, for these actions, there's an indicative budget of 22.5 million euros. Next slide, please. Another technical assistance and type of call that we offer is specifically to help applicants in the preparation of strategic projects, whether that are strategic integrated projects or strategic nature projects under the 3 sub-programs that are eligible for the strategic projects. These are really projects to support member states and member states' authorities in preparing their applications under these strategic projects, and are small indicative support, technical support projects. They can be both for the current year, for the preparation of the second stage, but also in view of future preparation and submission of strategic projects under one of the upcoming calls in the next couple of years. Next slide. And now we're coming to the sub-program Clean Energy Transition, which has only one type of grant available. It's a coordination and support action grant. As said, the clean energy transition normally requires broad European participation of at least 3 member states in most of the topics that are open under the call. For this year, we have 91 million euros available as the indicative budget for the programs we have supported. Under this year, about 50, just over 50 projects from the 2024 call. So that gives you an indication of the size of the budget also that we expect under each of the calls topics. But you can have more detailed again on the session that will be on Thursday this week. Next slide, please. Just here to give you an overview of the 12 topics that will be open this year. And as mentioned in the previous slide, there's one specific call for the renewal of the European City Facility, which is a specific facility that supports investment strategies by cities in the clean energy transition. so a small ground facility, and we're looking at a partner that can continue that successful facility. There are 6 topic areas, or you can divide the 12 topics areas in about 6 topic areas. One is to really support the implementation of clean energy policies at the regional and local level, and build effective implementation. But we also have support programs specifically aiming at implementing the legislation at national level. We support the mobilization of investments at local and regional level through one-stop shops, or under the call for project development assistance that looks really at triggering investments for sustainable energy at the local level. We have, as mentioned previously, a whole topic that looks at crowding in private financing. We have the support to the citizens in the clean energy transition, in particular the support services for energy communities, which has been very successful now for many years, but also a whole topic that addresses really on how we can alleviate energy poverty in Europe as part of the clean energy transition. There's a whole topic on decarbonization of buildings and on the heating and cooling challenges, so supporting to district heating, but also other heating and cooling applications, and the whole sector supporting the development of skills, which is an important part to ensure that the clean energy transition continues and can be implemented at the local level. Next slide. And that's just a slide trying to summarize a little bit the overall changes that there have been in this year's call compared to previous year's calls. So for those who have already looked at previous LIFE programs, you might see that there are probably not too many changes, but maybe here a few changes that are different from last year's. So I mean, as said, there are 12 topics open on the LIFE set, one for the European City Facility. We didn't open this year a specific sub-call that was proposed under the call 2024. So that is a change compared to last year. And as said, we have one specific policy and legislative priorities project that is new under the urban topic, and hopefully will attract a lot of interest among you. There's small adjustments in the text, so please do carefully look and read the details of the descriptions of the topics, but also the indicative co-funding rates, which may have changed in some cases, and should really guide you in preparing your proposals. There's a slight change as we no longer require for the sub-programs a co-financing declaration. So that's a simplification that we have introduced. It was already not required in all of the sub-programs, but it has now been abolished as a requirement also for the remaining sub-programs. And the last change is that there is now a new guidance that the Commission has adopted, specifically on activities related to the development and implementation and monitoring and enforcement of EU legislation, and that links to lobby activities as part of grant proposals from all partners. And Anne will give you some more details on that.
Yes, thank you. Next slide, please. Yeah, we wanted just to highlight this new guidance because it is something different. It's not something that will probably have a large impact on most applicants, but it is important to be aware of it. I think it's important to put this in context. the LIFE program, the LIFE regulation, links very closely all LIFE projects to EU legislation and policy. And that is completely unchanged. The LIFE regulation says that LIFE should be contributing to the implementation and further development of EU environment and climate policy. So all of your projects will be judged on the basis of being very relevant to this legislation and policy. And certainly during the duration of the successful projects, we will be asking beneficiaries to provide feedback related to the legislation and the policies as part of their normal implementation activities. Our colleagues in the Commission services very much welcome feedback from the projects to help them see how the EU legislation policy actually plays out on the ground. However, over this past year, there was a growing concern about the appropriateness of financing certain very specific types of activities, particularly advocacy activities in the context of EU grants. So I would invite all applicants to read carefully at this guidance and just making sure that you are not explicitly inserting activities which are overly prescriptive or which have very specific detailed advocacy activities directed at the EU institutions. In case such activities are included, you will be required to either remove or modify them during the grant preparation process. So just please familiarize yourself with that guidance document. Next slide, please. So we've come to the end of our presentation. It's certainly covered a broad scope because the LIFE program does have a broad scope. I hope at this point you're not too confused, but if you are, don't worry. There are going to be many more presentations over the next couple of days that will help clarify everything. I do encourage you to read all of the call documents very carefully, in detail, and to consider consulting your national contact point. These are the people in your countries who can give you advice on developing your application. Of course, we in SINEA can clarify if there are elements of the calls that are unclear, but we can't comment on specific ideas you might have, particularly not for the competitive calls like the standard action projects and PLPs and the CAT projects. We are open to a little more consultation on the strategic projects, but only from the relevant competent authorities. Putting together an application is difficult. We're aware of that. It is a challenging activity. There's lots that you're asked for in the application, but that's because we have a high quality program. We want to be able to award the grants to really the best projects, and that's what you need to do in your application. Provide the correct information to show that you really meet the criteria, that you're really going to have an impact on the ground, that you are going to contribute to the further implementation and development of the EU environment and climate policy. So I wish you a lot of luck. I hope you learn a lot from these coming days. All of the presentations are recorded, so you can also go back and consult them later on if you need to. So thank you very much. Thank you for being with us, and good luck in your application.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Anne and Hans, for your very comprehensive presentation, so that now we have a full overview of all the calls that are available under the LIFE program. You can find them, of course, in the Funding and Tender Opportunities portal of the European Union, and we will find also much more information in the next days when we will present in detail all the calls that were just mentioned by Anne and Hans.